I thought it would be fun to recreate part of a UI in a game. Particular game here is Rimworld. So it's like a colony simulator kind of thing. I don't want to recreate the whole thing. For now I'm just going to recreate this work tab here. So I'm going to use QtQuick to do it. So I'm going to start the QtQuick application. I use Qt 5.7. Get rid of the boilerplate stuff. So here we have an empty window. So the first thing that I want to do is make the window a bit smaller. First of all, okay, maybe not that small, like that. And I want to set, no, I don't want to set the background color on the window. I want to set the background color on the item that I'm making. So I'm going to say, I'm going to add a rectangle. It's going to fill the window, and it's going to be dark grey. Yep. So I should go into a bit more detail about this work tab, I guess. So I'm not going to do the manual priorities. I'm going to do this. I am going to do the manual priorities, rather, not this one. So you can hover over each item. Each item here is a columnist, each row, and you can change their priorities. And you can also copy and paste into other columnists. So now we've got this window set up with a rectangle. I want to add a column. I'm just going to use layouts for this because I end up using them eventually anyway. You can also use column. It also works. And this layout is going to fill the parent as well. And in the column we want to have a bunch of rows. So to create those rows we want to use, you could use a list view, but for now I'm just going to use a simple repeater. And it needs a model, so we're just prototyping here, so I'm just going to do it as quickly as possible, hopefully, and not using any C++. So columnist model, and each item in this model is going to be a columnist. So this one is Olga. And we've got Val. And this guy. Okay, so now we've got a model, we can set it on the repeater. That's still not going to display anything because we need a delegate, so delegate is going to be, well, it has to be hoverable. So does it have click? So it doesn't have a click effect. So I can probably just use mouse area for this. And mouse, how big do we want the mouse area to be? Since this is in a column layout, I'm not gonna set a width explicitly in that sense. I'm gonna use some layouts instead. And I'm just gonna fill the width of this rectangle, or the layout rather, and I want it to be about 40 pixels high. Okay, let's show that on screen. So it's probably a bit high. Yeah, 28. Yep. And you notice that there's these massive gaps between each one. So these are distributed evenly amongst the space that it has. Whereas in the game they've got this kind of, so if I had only one columnist here, it would probably still be, this tab would probably be the same height, or this panel. So what I want to do is, I want something to take up the rest of that space. So I can make an empty item and set layout fill height true, and then add this back in. And then the only spacing there is the default spacing that comes from the column layout, which is 5 pixels. So now there's no spacing, which is what we want. So this list actually begins about halfway down. So for now, I'm just going to say anchor's top margin is parent a height divided by 2. Or, yeah. You can also specify the anchors, each anchor explicitly, the left and right and top and bottom, but this works as well. Although that is a bit high, so let's say, just for now, like that. Okay, now I want to get the name of each person in here, so I'm going to use just text for now. And the text is going to be this property of each list item, so name. And it's black. That looks better. It's a bit white. So I want that to be vertically centered in each row. Oops. Yeah, it would help if I use that. There we go. So now the text is vertically centered within the mouse area. Next thing we want to do is add a tiny bit of padding. to the left. First of all, there's a gap on the entire left side of the repeater, so we want to say anchor's left margin is 6. Okay. And now we'll remove this rectangle and well, we can actually just reuse it. I want to say this is going to be the line, like that kind of divider between each item. So it's going to fill the width of its parent, but it's only going to be 1 pixel high. And it should be a bit darker. Maybe even a bit more darker. And this text can be darker too, so let's say that. Ugh, that's a bit too dark. Yeah. Okay, that's looking alright. So now we have the lines there, but we're still missing a bit of spacing on the right hand side. So anchor's right margin 10 or something. Nah, probably not enough. 20. Yeah, good enough. Now, so now we want to add some hover effects. So we need to give the mouse area an ID. We could refer to it like this with parent contains mouse. If it is hovered, then you want some kind of shade over it, I guess. A white, kind of partially transparent shade. Otherwise, just hide it. And it should be the complete size of its parent. So you need to enable hover. Oops, that's not one. Hover enabled. So that works. Another way to do it is also to say mouse area. Give it an ID and refer to it like that. This way is a bit clearer, and if you ever change the structure of this delegate, which is likely to happen, then it's, rather than just fail silently, it will tell you you might get an error because the type has changed, or you will see that it's wrong because it's referring to something that it has since changed. So I'm going to use that form for now. This hover effect is a bit too light. That's pretty good. There's still a couple of pixels here to the left that I want to kind of match up with. So what I can do is use this layout.left margin property, another attached property of layout, and that's going to push just this item to the left a bit. It doesn't look like it worked. What's going on here? use that. That's going to push the whole delegate to the right. I just want this one to be a bit to the right, so you can just say X is 4. And then we get a little bit of space there. So this row is actually going to contain a lot of other stuff as well. So we have some copy and paste buttons. But more importantly, each name has a fixed kind of width that it will allow in here, so that all these are lined up. So if we want to have other stuff in this, in each row, then we need to come up with a fixed width for this. Okay, for now we'll just say X is 150. And just, no, that's not going to do anything. I need to give a width. Parent.width, take X. So that's going to be the rest of the row. Parent.height. And so that is the space that we have reserved for these things. And actually we probably want to make it even a bit, yeah, a bit wider, or more to the right, because we have those copy and paste buttons that we need to add in here. So this divider can go up here. So this is the background and divider. This is the name of each columnist. But after that, we want to start using a row layout for each little priority button thing here. So it will still start at 180. Actually, it's easier just to say anchors fill parent, anchors left margin 180. Then we don't have to do this stuff. Repeater. And we're going to use another model. Something pretty cool I discovered, which funnily enough didn't know about until now, is that with ListModel you can have this kind of array syntax. So usually the properties of a list element can only be literals, like strings and numbers, booleans and stuff like that, but you can also have list data. As it says here, it's possible for roles to contain list data. And this is actually going to be treated as a model itself, which is pretty cool, and that's kind of useful for us right now. So we're going to say that each columnist has priorities, and so we give it a priorities array, which is going to be a model, and each list element is going to contain the priority. If we're going to do this properly, it would be done in C++. To cut it short, that's how you should do it properly. But for now, it's just a prototype, so I'm just going to hard code this stuff in here. Okay. So now we have some priorities, but we're not displaying them. So this mouse area here is the delegate for this model. You can see that we're referring to name here. And that comes from this element. So we can also refer to priorities. And use that as our model. So the delegate is going to be, for now it can just be text. And the contents of the text will be this priority property. Okay. Wow, that's perfectly fits in there. So this should be kind of almost white for now. I think this text color actually changes. So perhaps that's not so important right now. Okay. And what does each one of these look like? It kind of looks like it has a border around it. Or is that just my eyes? I think the better they are, they get a wider border around this square. Yeah, we can do that as well, I guess. It just means we have to add more stuff to this model. We'll just call it skill. And copy that in there. I'm just going to give it some random values to make it look a bit more realistic for testing purposes. And so we're not using it still. So let's change this delegate into a rectangle. And the border color is going to be dependent on the skill. For now we'll just say white, because we still need to give it a width and height. So let's say 24 and the height is, yeah, the width is 20 and the height is 24. That works better. Okay. I want this to be vertically centered. Ah, yes. Made this mistake again. So it's never a good idea to specify width and height when the item is in the row layout, or a column layout, or any layout for that matter, because it can be overridden, and often is. So you want to use the attached properties instead. Oops. Yep. I guess that okay. It was centered all along. I guess that is because it might just be the default value for layout, I think. Vertical center, yeah, okay. then we don't need to do anything for that. Make this 24 again. Okay, it should be transparent for now. And we want that text centered. Oh. And the text is currently displaying priority, which is right. But we want this border. Actually, it's probably easier to just say Qt.RGBA. So, skill. So these values are from 0 to 1. So we can have a property here, a read-only property. I just call it S for now, because I'm lazy. Skill divided by 20, because that is the max skill level. And we probably want to make it at least 0.2, or even 0.4. So that's going to be the minimum kind of brightness or lightness, because this is just going to be all white, except for the alpha, which is going to be 1. Okay, so if we say, oh no, that is already using skill, okay. So then the question is, why is that not showing up? It's working. What have I done wrong here? Skill divided by 20, that should be right. Oh yeah, no, that's not right. I'm gonna add this. There we go. Although it's still very light for the like 5 and 4. It's just black basically. So let's debug this a bit. So now we have a list of every priority here, and you can see that it's 0 for the lower ones. So what have I done wrong? That's the question. Oh, it's an integer, right. Should have saw that. So this might help. Maybe. No. No, of course not. That's stupid. It should be a real. It has to be a real. Derp. Okay, that looks pretty good. It could be a bit darker though. Even darker? That's pretty good. The background also gets a bit darker. So the background needs to be... It needs to do a kind of similar thing to what the border does. But it needs to be lighter. I'm gonna have separate properties here. So this one is the color, and I want that to be not so bright. That works pretty well. The border is still a bit bright though. Maybe 3.5. Ugh, that's too dark. I think the color should be capped. Ugh, no. Min, that looks a bit better. Right. So even for someone who has... I don't have any 20 skills here, unfortunately. This is quite an early game still. But the background color is not getting that light, so... Maybe this can be even... No, I already tried that, didn't I? That's pretty dark. Okay, so then we can just cap this. That's pretty decent. I don't want to spend too much time on little details like that. So we've got one column done. But the items don't exactly fit in the row here. So what would probably be the best? I mean, we could just set a fixed width for this whole thing. So we add all of these priorities, check how long it gets, type in a hard-coded width, and do it like that. It's not that nice though. So what we can do is, first of all, I want to move this delegate out into its own file. So I can press Alt Enter, and I get these options here. So we can move it into a separate file, or we can wrap it into a loader. I want to move it into a separate file. And I want to move some property assignments in. Do I want to do that? Yes. Hover enabled, I don't need to move in to the file. Well, sorry, this is actually, if all of these are unchecked, then it's going to be moved into the file. If I check one of them, then it's gonna do that. I think that's how it works. So let's move those in. Yeah, that's right. And why did I call it mouse area? Okay, we have to rename that to colonists delegate. Just rerun QMake to make sure that's going to be picked up. So if I say, oops, that was doomed to fail. Yeah. So that works. So what was I doing? I wanted to move this out into its own file because I want to give it an implicit width, a sensible one, so that we can make the size of this panel, the work panel, depend on how many priorities there are. So firstly, let's make this a bit longer. That's 800. Okay. So let's say that this background color is black for now, and this rectangle, which is the work pane, I'll just call it. We want this to be, the height can be fixed. That's no problem. Yep. It looks okay. Kind of. It has a border around it. And actually this padding should apply to this one. So this one is going to be, say, 200 high, and for now it's going to be 800 wide. Maybe a bit shorter. That's good. And it's going to be anchored to the left, which it already is. But it should also be at the bottom of the screen. What's the exact boundaries of this? Can be a bit taller, and then this one can be a bit shorter. That looks about right. But we're going to have to make this window bigger, because this still looks a bit small. Yeah. Push this down by a bit more. Okay. So now we want to add this border. I'm not going in a particular order here. It's kind of just haphazard. It's a fun way of prototyping. It's just doing what appeals to you the most. It's easy to move components into separate files and refactor stuff in QML. So. Okay, what's next? We should probably put some more columnists in there and finish off this row, because I haven't even added interactiveness to these button things yet. So let's go back to the delegate. Each time it's clicked, we want to, so in the game you can left click to increase it, or decrease it, technically, and right click goes the other direction. So if the mouse button was the left button, then we want to set the priority, and the priority is called priority. But we need to do some checks here. So if the priority is at 1, then the next one should be -1, because it displays nothing after 1. It basically says don't do this thing at all. So let's just try this for now and see what happens. Priority is not defined. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. I'm in the completely wrong mouse area. Actually, I don't have a mouse area for these little buttons yet, so add one, make it field apparent, then add this stuff back in. So currently it's not responding to my clicks at all. Why might that be? Priority. Oh, it should be getting hit. Yep. This should be getting hit. Yes. What's going on here? I know it's some stupid mistake. Like that. So it's just continuing down. So we can make this really complex and hard to read by adding another one here and saying if it's equal to -1, then go to 4. That's actually working. It's just that it's not updating here because I'm not even using it. Okay, that's good. This is not that easy to read. A bunch of if statements would probably be better. But oh yeah, that's right. So if this is 1 or -1, then it should be nothing. We don't want to display anything in that case, because that's what the game does. Good. Now we need to handle right clicks. And the right click is going to go in the opposite direction. So if the priority is at 4, then we want to go to -1 still, I think. Yeah. Let's just see what happens with that and get rid of this. Oh yeah, that's right. So mouse area by default. Oops. It only accepts the left button. So let's put this in. Now it should do right button as well. Oh, it almost worked the first time. So now it's going to go to 1, -1. And now it's going to increase it. You can just say the max, or the minimum rather, is 1. Yeah, that works well. Okay, the next thing to do is change the color of the text. Now I don't want to try and calculate this. It's I don't even know if it's probably possible, but I think it's easier just to have a list of colors, like an array. So I'm not sure if this makes a difference, but it could. So I'm going to move this out because the colors aren't dependent on the delegate, so they should be higher up. So that because they might get created for each of these buttons. I'm not sure. Colors, or maybe priority colors. And we use the Australian English spelling. What colors do we have? Green for priority 1. What is that? Some kind of beige color? I don't really know what color that is. Color. SVG color name. Yeah, any one of these ones. Let's just say beige. I have a tendency to hit run before I've actually done anything that's going to make something show up, so just have to hold off for a second. Grey, light grey, perhaps. And this. No, index isn't right. Priority. But this is going to blow up because we have a -1 priority sometimes. So again, we need to check it. If it's priority 1, then transparent, I guess. Doesn't really matter, it's not going to be visible, but just to be clear. Unable to assign undefined to color. Probably spelled this wrong. Where are you? No, it's there. That's a valid color. Something like that. Okay, first of all, I'm gonna switch these around because I don't like having the special case first. Sometimes you need to tidy up before you can continue looking at something. So what is this? I like to add... You can turn a simple binding expression into a JavaScript block by just adding some curly braces. And I want to print what the priority is. And what... Oh yeah, it's one based. Come on. Yeah, that makes sense. So it should have been like this. That green is a bit dark. Green, yellow, lawn green. Perfect. Get some of that lawn green. Oops. It's got some nice tabs in that page. Okay. How's the spacing? It's a bit much spacing. And these squares, well, they're almost squares. The rectangles are almost square, so... This... What is this bug? With Creator. That panel was overlapping this. Yeah, it could still be a bit fatter. And this can be taller. Yeah. It needs to be... How tall is one of these rows? Front height is 28. So I'm gonna make that 32. And then this can be even wider. That's better. Actually, I think that is a square. Yeah. Text is a bit small. Font dot pixel size. I can't remember if this was added yet. Probably hasn't been. No. Okay, damn it. Well, in that case, I'm just going to hard code it for now. But what you would want to do is use some kind of factor of the default font size, because that's going to be determined based on the DPI of your screen. And it's going to be readable, guaranteed readable, basically, all the time, regardless of which platform you're on. So, but for now it doesn't matter so much. That looks about right. Then we have to make this name text a bit bigger too. It's a bit tiny. 16. That's quite big. That's better. This border is probably a bit too light. Yeah, that's better. So, what's next? Spacing. How many priorities are there here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 21. Okay. How many is that? 17, 37. That's 20, I think. 21. Perfect. Change some of these as well, because I'm going to be copying them for other columnists, so I don't want to have them all be one. That looks better. So now I can copy this for each one, and this is really ugly. This would usually come from some kind of data file, and then it would be read into C++ and stored there, and then you would only see it as, you would expose it from C++ into QML, and it would be called just like this, columnist model, and you would just say model columnist model, and that would be it. But because this is so ugly, I'm going to move it into, no, I'm going to move it into its own file. Columnist model sounds alright. Good. Is that everything we needed? I think so. That doesn't need to be there, because we're not referring to it within this file. Layouts, don't need that. Do we? No. Window, don't need that. That should be it. It's a bit big. Let's go back to giving this an implicit width. Okay. Implicit width for this is going to be yeah, 180, I guess, plus, because we want that fixed area at the beginning. Oops. And we want to have the other part of the implicit width be based on the size of this guy. So we can say row layout dot implicit width. This is probably not going to work. And just so we don't have so much duplication here, we can say anchors.left margin. So what is this implicit width? $688. That doesn't really help me. I want to know visually how big it is. Right, so the layout is feeling apparent, but we don't want to do that anymore. What we want to do is we want to say x is 180, and that's pretty much it. And then hopefully, yes, that's what I wanted. Can't really see it that well because this has a lower Z order, but if we move this down here, then it has its natural width, which is what we want to base this panel on. So what do we want to do with that? Oh yes, that should be X. Still not right. So we want the implicit width to be 180 plus the row layout. What am I missing here? It could be that it's not taking into account spacing, but I'm pretty sure that the implicit width does account for spacing. And this gap here... Oh no, we... Okay, yeah. That's why. That's tricky. So I want the width of the pane to be based on the width of one of the rows, but... Oh, that's tricky. So this pane has no way of knowing about these delegates, really. But we could say that the width is... Yeah, I guess we could... Okay, this feels a bit hacky, but... Item at the first index, implicit width. Now that should be correct. Cannot read property implicit width of null. Yeah, fair enough. Probably doesn't have any items at that stage. So if the count is non-negative, or non-zero rather, then yeah, that looks a bit better. It's still not right though. Maybe it has something to do with these margins, and it does. Okay. Damn it. This is where it gets tricky. Because I wanted to base the panel size off of the delegates, I have to do a bit of manual calculations. Because we lost these margins aren't factored into this width, into the implicit width, so we have to do that ourselves. And it is really ugly. But it works. We can make it a bit less ugly by wrapping. Okay, so that's actually looking pretty good now. So the advantage of doing this way is that if we add more... Where's my model gone? Here. If we add more priorities, then it grows. Or at least it should grow, I think. And this is... Yeah, there we go. So, it's not... Oh yeah, because it's limited by the window's width, because the window width is still hard-coded. We could also make the window width depend on the size of the layout, but that's going a bit far. Okay. What's next? Manual priority is not doing that part. High priority, lower priority, that's easy, that's just some text. We can do that last. These copy buttons I want to do next. So, probably want to make a bit of extra space, maybe, for these. And they're going to go just in here. Do I want to use button? No, for now I'll just stick to simple. No, you know what, I will use button. So I'm going to use QtQuick controls too, and actually no, I'm not, I'm going to use templates. So if I had used controls, then I get this button. And you know, you can run it with different styles. This is going to look hideous because it's not big enough to fit, but you can run it with the different styles that we have. But I don't want to use that styling really. Okay, we can try it anyway. Let's just see what happens. I'm going to customize the background because we have our own colors that we want to use. Namely, no color whatsoever. So... yeah. I mean, I don't want to make the icon. I was thinking of just using some text. Well, I'll just say color is white. The default color is white, but I like to specify it just to be clear. Let's see what happens if we do this. It's pretty good. These buttons aren't centered vertically. Oh, yes they are. Because this text is quite big. No, that doesn't make sense. It's the spacing. So... if we remove the spacing... almost looks right. 32. This doesn't need to be specified here. We can have an implicit height, and then the layout will use that as the preferred height. So we can say that the implicit height is based on the row layout's implicit height. And then it looks good. Probably want to have a bit of spacing though. Why isn't that not working? Oh, I've got some extra ones off to the side here. Let's make this a bit bigger. Yep. This is going off the edge. Not quite sure. No, that's not right. What am I doing? I've lost it. That looks better. It's the column layout spacing that I want. Kinda looks a bit stupid though. I don't think we want to use spacing actually, because this is filling the entire width of the delegate, so let's remove that spacing and go back to the delegate and say the implicit height is the row layout's implicit height plus 8 pixels, and that will give us 4 pixels top and bottom once we have done this. There we go. Let's move this up a tiny bit. Okay, now to this staggered text here. So each one of these lines is easy to do. The problem is making it line up. Actually, they have some... It's not actually centered here. I'm not sure why. It could just be that they've aligned it to the right side of this text for some reason. Well, I don't want to do that line inside the delegate, that's for sure. I want to do it the top here. So to get an idea of where it's going to go, let's just add this rectangle. And that's going to push it down a bit, so now we can remove this, or maybe make it just a bit smaller. So that is where the lines are going to go, but we don't want it to start from there, we want it to start from here. So this is a problem because only the delegate knows the priorities start from. But we can expose that as a property. Something like that. That should work. And then we can say layout.left margin is... Oh no. We have to do this trick again. It's not that nice, but... since we're already doing it, there are better ways of doing this, I think. I think a property could be defined up here, and then that could be used by each delegate. That's probably the nice way to do it, but since we're already doing this, and this is just a mock-up, I'm going to say first item. And then we can reuse that. Why is that complaining? There we go. So, first item. If there is a first item, then first item dot this. Otherwise, it can just be 0. First item is not defined. Yeah, okay. So then we have to use an ID to qualify it. If we put it up here, it would work, because it's in the root context or scope, but this is our window, and eventually you want to move this into its own QML file, so we don't want to do that. Okay, we've still got the placeholder there, but it's in the correct position now at least. So let's move this, let's make creator make this file for us. Priority header or something, that'll do. We don't need preferred height because we're going to say implicit height. Now what? Now we want to have another repeater, and I think we're just going to have to hard code this list. So what do we have? Oh, maybe that's like a Rimworld priorities. With a list that we can use, that would be nice. Of course there's no list. Come on, give me something. Wow, that's slow. User interface. Okay, we have to do that ourselves. The first one is firefight. The second one is patient, I think. Doctor. Bed rest, flick, warden, handle. Cook hunt. Grow mine, plant cut smith. Tailor art craft, that's lowercase c. Okay. This should be an item. Don't want any visuals for this one. Each thing here is going to be an item as well. This width is going to be... I want to share this width. I don't want to have to do this first item trick again. So let's move this out into work pane. That's good. It used the ID as the file name. That's cool. The height is fine. And now we get this really nice, simple thing here. This probably should go in here. Don't need layouts in there. Yeah, it doesn't hurt, I guess. Might use it later. So I'm going to make another read-only property. Int. Priority button width. And what do we make that? 28. So now let's organize these a bit. Now we move this one into here. No, it's not read-only, it's just a regular property. It needs to be writable. So each delegate has to know about that. Okay. Now that we've got this in its own file, we could also do the same thing for this implicit width. No, we can't. I was thinking of that little region here. But we might. Yeah, we might have to, because this was copied in here. I don't want to do that. Let's just set that to 0. So this is going to be an issue as well. So, this priority start X thing. Can go up here. Like that, and then it becomes writable, and the row layout uses it. Cut that. Like this. and like this. So these are the ones that we're going to share with other stuff in this file, like the header. Like so. Where are you? Yeah. So we can say the width of this item is this, the height is... Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that we have to share actually. Maybe not. The height doesn't have to be the same. The height can be... Let's close some of this stuff. Parent.height. So it's going to be some empty items, but if we say rectangle, width is 1, height is, for now, parent.height. Color is grey. It gives us nothing. Why might that be? Priority button width. Does it have a width set actually? Yep. It's got no... No, it's got a width. Let's see. It's not even visible, so chances are it's got no height, I'm guessing. No, it's got a height. What's going on here? Can use one of these snippets that I have. Probably this one. I think the creator strikes again. Yes, it does. It's not picking up changes. That's really annoying. It happens whenever you add a new file to QRC. It doesn't pick it up sometimes. So this line should go to the top of the separator, which it's doing, but it's doing it in the wrong position. That looks better. We have several lines. This should be a row layout. Okay, that looks good. Still starting in the wrong position though. That's probably because... This shouldn't be in here. This is the copy button. We never actually finished this. So this, for now, I'm just going to do it like this. Ooh, that's not right. Like this. And vertically centered. and a little gap. I made it a bit bigger because in the game they have it right next to this stuff, which I think looks pretty bad. So now we can go back to this header. Each second line is going to have a shorter one. It's going to be shorter. So if it's the first one, then it's going to be big, I think. And the second one is going to be probably half the size. Yeah, roughly. That's massive. Horizontal center is correct, but the anchors should be on the bottom. I actually prefer it centered over the text compared to how they have it in the game. Now we have to try and fit some text in there somehow. So when you've got no roles in your model, you use model data. That's very black. Okay. This text is not centered. And now we want to position the text at the bottom of the line. We want to position the bottom of the text at the top of the line, rather. With some spacing. Oh, maybe we don't need spacing. Maybe just a couple of pixels. Okay. It's a bit cramped up there. That's looking pretty good. Copy and paste do nothing at the moment. They don't even respond to clicks. So how it has in the game, it's too late to show you now, but when you click copy, the paste icon shows up for some reason. Actually, I'm not going to do it like that. Just for fun, I'm going to make it start off disabled. Enabled, false. And the first time you click it, then it enables it. Because then you have something in your clipboard. Having it just show up out of nowhere is kind of odd, because it doesn't go away until you, probably until you load another game. It's not that easy to see because I'm using placeholder stuff, but what we can do is, if it's enabled, white, otherwise grey or something. Wrong one. That's good enough. That's not right. This should be enabled. It's true. There we go. And it has hover effects. It does. So when it's hovered, it is cyan-ish. You can see that we're already starting to duplicate some stuff here. Hovered, cyan. First one should be enabled. If it's enabled, then do all the other stuff. If it's disabled, then it should be grey. So this is really small, so I'm not going to bother moving it out into a separate file. But they're almost identical. The only difference is I haven't bothered to do the enabled effect for this one. However, it's not defined. I'm going to be really lazy and just say... There's nothing wrong with doing it this way either. Because the parent is always going to be the button. Unless you're doing something weird. Okay, so hover is not enabled. I thought it would be on Windows, on desktop. I can't remember how that works. Yeah, that's good. What's missing now? Manual priorities. Yeah. I don't really want to do that. Doesn't really add much to this video, I don't think. I can put it there and make it do nothing. Little checkbox. Let's see, I have to be careful here. This... That should be alright. I just didn't want to have the text affect this layout. It should just be freely positioned and have no effect on it. I think it's... No, the checkbox is green, okay. That text is way too big. Give it some space around the edges. Maybe a bit more up here. And then chuck that into row layout with a checkbox. This is going to be a custom checkbox. You can see why shortly. Well, it's probably already obvious, but it's not exactly the correct start for what we want. This padding has to move up. Should that also be 8? Yeah, it looks good. Ah, the check. Yeah, I don't want to make the check. I mean, it's fairly straightforward. You could use canvas. Now I'm curious. What if I can just remove the background? That's one step. It makes it look a bit closer to it. What are you doing? What are you doing? Why won't you disappear? Okay. That's the content item. Oh, it's probably the indicator. Yes. So I wanted to reuse the tick. You know what? I'm gonna do it just for the fun of it. How big is this? It's not big at all. That's weird. It is filling the parent. The indicator, oh maybe the indicator has to be... It probably needs implicit width. Fine. On paint. And get the contexts. And I always just reset it out of habit to clear what was there before. Not necessary in this case actually, because the size of it should never change, so it should just draw it once, which is the best performance wise as well. So we want to move it down here. Then draw. Somewhere around here. I'm just guessing. Doesn't matter. Move at the same... the line should start at the same place as we move to. Then we move over a bit. Maybe to 4 or 3, 5. And then go up. Yep. I have to actually stroke it. Might help. I think it's just stroke. This should be black. Yep. Oh, it looks like a hockey stick. Yeah, this height should be 6 or something. Oh, yeah, no, right. That's... okay. How do I do this? This should be the first point. Then we do a line to here. Yep. It's looking a bit malnourished. Stroke style should be green for starters. Stroke width? I think that's what it is. Oh, I don't remember. This documentation can be improved, I think. I don't like having to find context today because you're looking for the properties of context today, but the first thing you're going to search for is canvas, not context today. I think it's a bit silly. What am I looking for? Width. Line width. Yeah, okay. Line join, line cap. Line cap round. What is this? Is this just... I'm guessing it's a string, but I'm curious if I can... do it like that. No, okay. Ah, come on. that's almost it. That's a bit fat now. It's had a bit too much to eat. I think we can... no, we can't. Okay. Get rid of this. And it doesn't do anything at the moment. So I can show you what happens if I don't clear this afterwards, but this... manual... let's just call this manual checkbox. Keep it short. Shorter. Manual checkbox. Dot checked. Green, otherwise red. This shouldn't update. It should start off checked. And it doesn't. That's right, because Canvas will only update when you request it. So uncheck changed. No, that's not gonna work. I was thinking of just doing this. The method is called, or the function is called request paint. Oh, it does work. Really? Maybe because it's a slot and not a property. But if I had done this, what's the property of canvas? Context. This should be undefined. Interesting. Because it is defined as an item, I'm not sure why that has that property available. Maybe that's... no, context surely doesn't exist in an item, but that's weird. Okay, I don't think that used to work, but it works now. So if we... if it's checked, then draw a tick. Otherwise, draw across. It doesn't help. It doesn't hurt to leave comments like this, because someone who's reading your code has to think about it, has to run the code and check what's actually happening. This means that they don't have to think. These ones are never going to change. And this, we know where we are now, so we can keep that green. Cross is going to start there and go maybe down there. And then from the bottom left to the top right. And now you can see why I do the reset. It's because if you don't, the stuff shows up from the last paint. So that's actually cleared the line width, which makes sense. It resets not just the contents but also the commands that you've passed. And that looks good. It's almost identical. I don't know why they... well, probably because they're not drawing with canvas. That's probably why. But they have a little pointy edge here. That's okay. It's not horizontally aligned though. With the text, that is. So this... the checkbox is always going to be bigger. So that means that the text should align it self. Maybe you could even just be in the parent. Ugh, that's not what I wanted. How about that? That's not right. Ah, right. This checkbox is not. It's not working with me. This is not going to be. Oh, it did work. Okay, cool. That looks good. Like I said, that's not going to do anything, but I think the rest of this is quite close to how it is in the game. You have these little flame icons here as well, but that's simple. It's just anchoring it in the bottom right, depending on their skill level, which is the same thing that indicates the colors here. But yeah, so this is one section of the game, it's the UI, the work tab, and we could have several sections down here that are all opened from this tab bar down here. But that's it for that one. So thanks for watching.